What's up, Trunk Slayers? It's Monday. That means it's Spicy Monday. And today I want to pull a little bit of a Carly Simon and say, you're so vain, I bet you think this video is about you. So I was reminded this morning of a topic that I had been meaning to make a video about for a while. This morning, a good friend of mine reached out and asked me if a recent video I made was about him. Because I made a joke that in hindsight pretty clearly was about a small number of people in our friend circle. So I could absolutely see why the video was about him. It wasn't about you, buddy. But more importantly, he then cited a piece of supporting evidence that a lot of my videos recently have obviously been about his MSP and ragging on his MSP. That's weird. Why? Why would I rag on his MSP? It's an objectively successful MSP. Because in a lot of my videos, I talk about how a lot of MSP owners have been in business for 15 to 20 years and have plateaued somewhere between 2 to 3 million and can't seem to move past that. And he said, well, that's us. So clearly those videos are about us because you know us and you know that. And I thought that was interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about that and give a little behind the scenes information around why some of y'all might feel that way. I made a video a long time ago when I first started making videos where I used the concept of a normal distribution to explain another concept. It wasn't quite an appropriate usage of that probability and statistical concept, but it works well enough, so I'm going to use it here. The reason why a lot of my videos probably make a lot of you feel like he's either talking about me or he's talking about somebody I know. He must be talking about them. It's so uncanny. He has to be talking about them. The reason why some of you feel that way is because I've been in this industry long enough where I'm able to see trends and patterns, and literally all I'm doing is highlighting common and average trends. And so when I call those things out in these videos, in a dramatic way, if you feel like they're talking about you or someone you know, they're not. It's just that most of you fall into the middle of the bell curve of average MSPs who exhibit those behaviors. The irony around all of that is pretty tangible and it's pretty funny. Because I guess in the one sense that means these videos are working, but on the other sense it means that we still have a long way to go to help a lot of business owners have that moment of self-realization that you really could be pushing your business a lot further than it currently is if only you were willing to basically stop being average. And I don't mean that in a negative way, that being average is a bad thing. There is nothing wrong with being average. And let me be explicitly clear. If you are running an MSP between $2 to $3 million and you've been in business for 20 years, are you the second coming of the business genius? No, you're not. You've been in business for 20 years to get to a $3 million business, but you're not bad at it. That's a good job. You did a good job. And like, if those owners don't know that and they don't say that enough, that's good. And especially if you're paying your bills and maybe making a little profit on top and your clients are happy and your staff are happy, you're winning. That is winning. 10% of small businesses, all small businesses in the United States, make it to $1 million in revenue. So like, you are already in an elite group if you have plateaued at that point. It's just most of you plateau at that point because it takes a lot of work and you have to be exceptional to push past that. And where a lot of you get hung up and what a lot of these videos are about is it's not about being exceptional about the product you're delivering. It's not about being exceptional about how you deliver the product. It's not what matters. It's about being exceptional about how you approach fundamentally operating a business, what problems you're trying to solve, and how you go about solving them. And so that requires a level of thinking and a shift away from what probably got you to this point. That's why I make this content, because of that aggregate group, if we did a normal distribution of MSPs, if we did a population sample of all MSPs and we drew that bell curve, the normal distribution, yeah, most of you are going to fall in the middle of the bell curve. That's what a normal distribution is. And most of the folks in that middle of the bell curve, you're actually between 1 to 3 million is probably the two deviation bookends there. Like, that's most of you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. And a lot of you are running fantastic businesses that have really happy everybody. So it's really, really great. But a lot of you want to be more than a standard deviation away. You want to grow past that. And to grow past that, no one cares about how friendly your staff are. I shouldn't say no one cares. That's not what you need to be working on. Nobody at that point is growing because they have come up with the most white glove way to do something. Nobody who is service first has grown past that point because the overwhelming just quality of how wonderful they are has pushed them forward, because everyone is doing those things, which means it's not a differentiator. So for all of you that think that's a differentiator, it's not, which is why so much of my content is around stop doing that. It's not that I think that y'all shouldn't be working to be good businesses that have good quality service, that are putting your clients first and are really rushing to make every client feel incredibly special and nuanced. That doesn't scale. And when I say scale, and this is where I think I lose a lot of people, why I make these generalizations. When I say scale, I don't mean like Verizon call center scale. I don't mean do the same terrible shit times 1,000. I mean, how do you get past a point where cognitively, you as the owner push past your own Peter Principle cognitive limit to build a team that can take that core idea of treating people well and build it out so that you can bring it to larger businesses in wider markets without requiring the sheer force of will of you as the owner to glue it all together. Because that willpower that a lot of you have used to get to that area, that sub $3 million cap, it's finite. Like y'all aren't magic. Like your willpower is finite. You can't push the business past that point. It has to be able to push forward in spite of you and despite of you. And so a lot of this content is made for that average MSP owner, which is probably why so many of you are like, hey, he's talking about me. I'm not. It's just you fall right into the middle of the bell curve that this content is designed to appeal to. So yes, it does sound like I'm talking about you, but there's tips and strategies to help. Hopefully you have that moment where you wake up and you go, shit, I'm the reason we're not growing any bigger. I need to take a step back. I need to reflect on our operations and how we're approaching doing this. And then we can get bigger than this. As I said, bigger doesn't mean Verizon call center, and it also doesn't mean Scrooge McDuck. Bigger doesn't mean that you have a giant money room that you evilly, dive into a pool of coins in while the rest of the MSP and small business citizens can't buy groceries. And it also doesn't mean some soulless call center. It means doing what you're doing now for more people at a greater scale and hopefully maintaining or improving the margins on it, because that's kind of the whole point. And I think a lot of y'all lose sight of that. And you hear bigger and you think, oh, it's a PE-backed multinational MSP, is shit tier service. That's a type of bigger, but it doesn't have to be how you get bigger at all. But you won't get any bigger if you don't wake up and recognize those areas that you need to improve it. While we're on this subject, it's come to my attention that there's been a handful of folks in the vendor side who don't really like Spicy Monday, the concept of it, because they feel that it's negative. And I think that's hilarious. Yes, a lot of Spicy Monday stuff is delivered through a dramatic and negative vehicle because it's entertaining. But the concepts aren't negative. Highlighting deficiencies, deficits, and areas for improvement isn't negative. And especially when everybody that I've seen who's been posting on the Spicy Monday hashtag has been adding in steps to repair the things they've called out. If you're not reading or listening or watching the whole way through people's content to get offended, but then hear how to, repair that, the problem isn't the person making the content. The problem's you. To those vendors that think that this type of content is negative or reflects poorly on the industry, it's pretty embarrassing for you. That's like watching The Lord of the Rings and saying that, orcs reflect negatively on the state of Middle Earth. Yes, they do. That's the point. They're not a disenfranchised, displaced people that need our love and care. They're pod bred for death and murder. Like, yes, they are indicative of problems in Middle Earth. And I know it seems like a weird example, but I'm trying to sort of point out this sort of astroturfy level of like, harumph, that's offensive, harumph and such. Right, it's supposed to be offensive. That's the point. It's supposed to be offensive to engage you so that you will then listen to and recognize, oh shit, that's a problem. And oh wow, here's some solutions. Because as we said at the beginning of this video, it's derived from the middle of the bell curve, which is most of our addressable market. And if you're a vendor and you don't understand that, that means that you don't understand MSPs. And that means that you don't understand what problem your product is solving for. And it means that you don't actually know how to talk to MSPs, which means that MSPs don't really want to hear from you or like you or want to buy your product. And even if your product is, and this isn't some sort of like leading or dramatic foreshadowing, I'm trying to obfuscate who the vendor is here, so nobody read into this. But even if your product's very popular or very, very small and niche, it doesn't really matter. And we've seen this already happen with vendors who had incredibly popular products that had large market share that completely lost touch with the reality of what MSPs need and want. They go away. They fade into existence. And to be clear, like, I'm not even making fun of current people. Like, who the fuck remembers like 𝘃𝗏𝗄? 𝘃𝗏𝗄, not ragging on them, cool logo. But 𝘃𝗏𝗄 used to be like the #2 PSA in our space 15 years ago, right? They had like nearly 50% market share, and they have dissipated into complete irrelevance, not because they did anything like harmful, but because they just completely failed to keep pace with what an MSP wanted. So like, learn from that cautionary tale, folks. Like, it doesn't matter how good your product is if you completely lose touch with your client base and then keep charging forward thinking, la, 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 I'm too big to fail. No, you're not. And of course you will. Like, you want a funny statistic around this while we're talking about PSAs really quick? So if you're in this space, what do you think, which PSA do you think has the largest aggregate market share of service providers amongst all PSAs? And some of you are probably saying Kaseya, some of you are probably saying ConnectWise. A couple of you that are smart might be saying Salesforce. It's actually ServiceNow. And a lot of you are probably saying, what the fuck is ServiceNow? I've never heard of it. Yeah. The total addressable market of help desks on Earth, ServiceNow has like the largest single market share of a single name like PSA, more than anybody. It's like 20-something%. And I think Kaseya is like 8%, 12%, and ConnectWise doesn't even show up named on that list. Now within the MSP space, that's different, but that just goes to show you how small and niche this industry is. We're barely a blip on the global ranking of ticketing systems. That's how small your marketplace is, vendors, that you have to learn how to talk to. And you're getting scared by people that are providing content that teach you how to do that. What's that say about you? Have a good Monday, everybody. This video wasn't about you.